Millennials, the generation of Pokemon cards, Sunday morning cartoons, and the unforgettable sound of dial-up internet were given a promise. The promise that a college degree, maybe even a graduate's degree, would make us special, that our financial future would be somewhat secure from then on, and all we had to do was work hard, and success along with that dream house, dream life, and family that we crave would follow suit. Fast forward to 2023, reality tells a very different story. Houses are outrageously expensive, debt looms ominously, and starting a family seems as distant as the days of dial-up internet itself. In today's video, we'll be diving deep into the financial pandemic that's affecting millions of millennials, exploring why we're struggling, and more importantly, what we can do to pivot towards a better financial future. Hey nerds, if you're new to the channel, my name is Christian. I'm an occupational therapist and a self-proclaimed video gaming nerd. On this channel, we discuss real-life lessons that can help you level up in the game of life. Now, if you click this video, you are probably somewhat unsatisfied with where you are financially. And let me tell you, it's not just you. It is millions and millions of people, not just millennials, that's currently struggling financially. Now, I'm a big Reddit lurker, so I pulled up some Reddit threads I just want to show you guys. Like for example, this one here. How does anyone afford anything? How are you all surviving? I make around $60,000 a year and I'm struggling to survive because I'm left with almost nothing after rent, insurance, and taxes. A few years ago, I feel this salary would be considered good. Now I actually feel like I'm in poverty. And here's another one. It's more of a meme. When you finally make it to middle class and inflation gets so high, it makes you lower class again. Now, the one thing about memes is that it only becomes really popular when a lot of people relate to it. And this one over here has 16,000. Over 16,000 upvotes means that a lot of people can relate to it. And I think this is a very millennial way of dealing with stuff. Like, this is a really serious problem, but a lot of people kind of accepted defeat. They're like, oh yeah, all of us are in debt, things are really difficult, you know, let's just go out and have a drink instead, let's just forget the problem. But no, we have to talk about this problem because this is something that's going to greatly impact how we live the rest of our lives. So to help you understand how everything ties together, I'm going to break this video down into three different parts. The first is going to be the promise of what we were sold as millennials, you know, what we were told and what our beliefs really are, which actually caused the start of all these problems. Then the second part is going to be the trap that was set by the entire system that all of us fell into, which is keeping us in this loop of constantly having to pay a lot of debt, not being able to afford enough, and essentially just working ourselves to death. And the third part is going to be the escape, how we can actually figure out to escape the cycle so we can achieve the financial goals that we want to achieve. So let's start off with the promise. The promise that we were given of what it means to be financially successful in this lifetime. Now, I don't know about you, but I was given a very straightforward way towards success, which was make sure I studied really hard in school so I got good grades, make sure I went to a university, get that degree, and then find a career I'm passionate about, work my butt off until retirement, save up as much money, get a property, and hopefully live happily ever after with a wife and have some kids. Now, the problem isn't the guideline itself. The problem is that this was only one part of the formula. There's a whole other section that a lot of us, the majority of us, weren't taught about, which was how to manage your money. That was the big missing component. Because I believe that there was so much focus on teaching us millennials, teaching, you know, just everyone in general on how to make money, right? You had to make sure you study hard, get a good job, make sure you make a lot of money. That way you can be successful, get all the things you want. But nobody really taught us how to use our money. Nobody taught us about the game of money. How do we save efficiently? How do we make money work for us? How do we actually invest our money so that it can actually grow over time? This was the missing component that many people actually miss. And what this caused is that so many people bought into this promise that they were just chasing after the degree, trying to work as much as they can, but still finding that they're falling short when it comes to finances. Why aren't they making enough money? Why aren't they living that lifestyle that they want despite following this really straightforward guideline, right? People don't understand this because this is the belief that they were given ever since they were kids. I know that I felt this for a long time, and I don't mean to blame parents or the financial system or any sort of things, because these sorts of things, it might have worked before, but the world has changed. There was so much inflation that went on, so much changes in our economy with the boom of the internet and everything, that simply working hard is not enough. It's not enough to just work hard to be financially successful. There needs to be another component of it, and that there is learning how to manage your money. Now, in theory, if you were to follow this path where you got a great degree, you work your butt off really hard, you should have been fine, right? But the reason that you weren't fine is because of part 2, the trap that was set by the system. And the trap here is the whole concept of debt.
I have $30,000 in credit card debt.
Debt is what's keeping most of us stuck in this financial loop of constantly having to work to pay off stuff but never really feeling any richer. Now, debt essentially is when you have to buy something or pay for something but you don't have the money to do that, so you borrow money to do so. And let's be real, everything is extremely expensive, from your mortgage for your house to your car to even an education. You need to somewhat use debt to figure things out in your life. But the big problem is that we were desensitized to debt from a very, very young age. And a prime example of this is going into debt to pay for college and universities. Over the last 20 years, university tuition have ballooned in price to over 200%. It has gotten really, really expensive to get an education, and it's gotten really, really competitive to get a job after you get that education. So you can kind of see where there's a problem starting to form already. And the worst thing here is that higher education has become essentially a business, right? A business of getting as much money from people going into the workforce before they even start working for money. I think it's a very predatory system. I have a lot of thoughts into it. I'm not going to go too much into it, but I want you to know that college and university debt is one of the only sorts of debt that you're not allowed by US Constitution, by US law, to actually be forgiven about. If you started a company and it went bankrupt, you can actually be forgiven for the debt. But if you went to university, you took out a huge loan and you're not able to pay that back, guess what? There is no way you can be forgiven for that debt. And this has caused a cycle where students are starting off needing to pay debt already and being very, very desensitized that debt is just something normal in life. They don't have to worry about it. So what happens? They apply for more credit cards, they buy a house they can't afford, they buy a car they can't afford, and this keeps them trapped in the cycle where they're working so hard but all their money is going into financing these debts. They're not able to actually escape this cycle. So they have to work to pay off the debt, but they're constantly taking more debt so it never goes down. So you can kind of start to see the trap that a lot of us are stuck in. Now, I do want you to understand though, by no means am I bashing, higher education and all that. I think the education can be really, really useful. And in fact, I got my master's degree and I'm working in the medical field as an occupational therapist, and I'm so thankful for that education. But I just think that the misinformation, the misunderstanding of how to use debt, how to pay it off, how to manage it properly, like the promise again, right? How to manage money. We weren't taught about that. We were only taught about the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of actually working hard to gain money, but we weren't taught about how to manage money, and that includes debt. So the trap that was set by society, by the system, is that everyone was saying, hey, here's a lot of free money, go ahead and take it with these credit cards, with these loans, and go chase all your dreams. But make sure you pay it back, but pay it back with a lot of interest. And that's where people get stuck. And they got used to this, so they keep on doing it again and again and again. And I see this so much, and I'm not the first person that's telling you this. I mean, Dave Ramsey, he's one of the most successful, financial gurus, if you can really call that, giving advice on how to manage your money. He's hugely, hugely against debt. Because if someone doesn't know how to manage their money, it doesn't matter how much money they make. You can have the best job in the world. I mean, you can look at celebrities, look at the great athletes, right? Some of them have so much money, so much fame, but for some reason they still went bankrupt. They still went to a point where they didn't have money, and the reason for this is because they didn't manage their money properly and they went into a lot of debt, and debt ended up biting them in the butt, biting them in the ass. If you're still here in this video, congratulations, because I know that it was very difficult to hear all that. But in order to tackle any sort of problems, you have to tackle the root cause. You have to understand what is causing the problem so that you can create the solutions for that. So of course, I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to give some solutions, some things that I've started to do that can help me escape this cycle essentially. So if you enjoyed the video up to this point, make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe button. I'm experimenting with different types of content, and as I get better at making these videos, I hope to give more and more value to you guys so you can help you level up in the game of life. Now, before I start with the third part of this video, I have to make it clear that everyone's circumstances is different. Some people have kids, some people have a much tougher time, some people are a lot more fortunate. I don't know, right? So depending on where you are in different areas of your life, what your circumstances are, some of these might apply to you, some might not. So I want to kind of generalize everything and help you understand the logic of it. I'm a nerd, right? So I'm very logical about stuff, and sometimes I might come off a little harsh, but that's because I want want you to solve the problem. I want you to be able to live a life where money isn't an issue. And I know that a lot of people are struggling. A lot of millennials find it so difficult right now to get through life, and it just pains me so much because I know it's not because you aren't working hard. You are working your butt off. You went through college, you studied really hard, you follow all the rules, but still the system has let you down because you find that no matter how hard you work, you can't see an end to it. So I want to break things down very logically to help you understand that there are certain things that you have to do no matter where you are, no matter what your circumstances are. You have to make it work, and this is how you start to escape the cycle. So let's get into part 3, which is the escape. To actually escape the financial cycle of constantly being in debt, constantly having to work just to pay off stuff but barely get by, you need to understand the equation. Essentially, I mean, I know it's kind of common sense, but to become more wealthy, you have to make more than you're currently spending. Now, a lot of people are spending the same amount as they make paycheck to paycheck, or spending more than they make. So actually going into debt using their credit cards. And that is a surefire way to never be wealthy, to never actually escape the cycle, because you're going to continue accumulating debt and this is going to keep you trapped here. So the first thing that you have to do is write everything down, because money is so difficult to think about that most people just don't want to face it. They sweep it under the rug. They don't want to think about the money they're spending. They don't want to think about having to discuss these kind of issues with their partner, but it's so important we write it down, we make it clear what is our current financial situation. So write it down, right? How much are you able to make a month? How much are your current expenses? How much debt do you have? And list everything very, very clearly. You have to see where your finances are. If you're currently spending way more than how much you're making, there's a huge problem. We have to make some sort of shifts there. Now, I know some people are gonna say like, oh, I tried doing this, just everything's so expensive. I have to feed my family, I have to feed myself, I have to, do all these different things. But let me tell you, there is 100% ways that you can definitely save a little bit more. Whether it may be subscriptions, downsizing your car, going out to eat less. I know these things are so difficult to hear, but hey, doing these kind of things are so important to get you to the point where you're able to actually enjoy all this in the future again. It's way better that way than struggling right now, simply tricking yourself and distracting yourself with all these different things, and actually suffering in the future. So what you need to start doing is sitting down and finding ways you can reduce how much you're spending. Reduce it to the point where you're going to have at least some money left over from the money you're making. So if you're able to do this, to get your expenses to be lower than how much you're making, then you're already way ahead of the majority of people, because now it's a net flow positive that in time your situation will get better. You just want to make sure you avoid being in a situation where your debt is constantly piling up. You want to make sure that it's going the other way. Once you're able to do this, now you need to think about, okay, what is the priority of stuff that I need to make sure I pay off? Are there any high interest debts you need to be making? Do you need to save an emergency fund? Are you even investing any of the money? Of course, these are more complicated things that we can further discuss and dive into, but I don't want to get into it in this video. I just want you to understand that the whole logic behind being successful is that you have to have a net flow positive where you're constantly making more than you are spending. And I know it's really common sense, but the majority of people do not do this. And once you're able to do this, the next step really is to educate yourself financially. Now, I want to make it very clear, I'm no financial advisor. I'm figuring things out as well. I'm just giving my opinions of what I've been doing and what I think is working for me. But you need to start seeking information, either through books, through videos. You need to absorb different perspectives to come up with your own theory of what works for you. And I can really break down some of the more important ideas, but depending on your circumstances, there's going to be a few different things that's going to apply to you specifically. But one of the more important things is you need to understand that people get rich not by simply working hard, but by owning assets. So this means actually having enough money to invest in stocks, real estate, whatever it is, right? I'm no expert in all these kind of things, but you need to somewhat invest in things based off what you're studying about. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I know this video turned out to be more of a rant video and me just going off tangents, but I really feel passionate about this. I feel that our generation is really screwed in the sense that we weren't taught about financial education properly. We were given, all this debt to actually service, with mortgages and homes and going to school and things like that. And it's just so overwhelming, and I know how a lot of us are feeling. So I hope this message reaches this out to those that really need it, help you understand that, hey, there's a way you can escape it, there's a way we can actually get financially free and actually achieve the financial goals that we want and not have to feel so stressed about money all the freaking time. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash that like button and go ahead and check out this next video on how you can overcome procrastination to start taking those first few steps towards a better financial future. So thank you again for watching. I will see you again very soon. Take care. Peace.